Hello and welcome back to a podcast about something where each week we dive deep into whatever it is we find interesting. I'm your host Calvin, and I'm joined today by my co-host Nick on the other line. How's it going, Nick?
It's going. How about you, brother?
Oh, I'm good. Today we are diving into the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister himself, from
Jaime.
A Song of Ice and Fire. Mostly from the book series, but we'll dive into a little bit of Game of Thrones.
We will save that to the end, though.
Yeah, so if you're just here for Game of Thrones, fast forward to, I don't know, we'll mark it somewhere in the description. So read the description, you'll know where to go for Game of Thrones only talk. I don't think we'll spoil anything. It just may expand your mind a little bit if you listen to this and haven't actually read the books, because Jaime is pretty dope in the books, and in the show he's pretty not.
He's just such a complex character, and I mean, you said it perfectly. He's dope. He's an awesome character in the books, but in the show, we'll get to
Yeah, he's got his issues, and we'll get there at the end. If you really like Jaime Lannister in the show, you might not want to hear our thoughts on that. But we're going to kind of just move through Jaime's life from childhood to basically where we know now, and then where we think he's going in the future, and then we'll talk about the show. So please, if you haven't read the books, still, it's great to listen because he is such a deeper character than he's portrayed on the books, and he's really great. So I hope you listen and learn something. If you did read the books, then you'll probably love this anyways.
Right on.
So let's start Jaime's childhood. He is the second child born to Tywin and Joanna Lannister. He's the firstborn son. He is actually, he's the twin brother of Cersei, as everyone probably knows, but he was born while holding her foot, which I always thought was interesting. And I think that will parallel some things as we talk about his life moving forward. Have you ever heard the theories on, they rely heavily on Tyrion's parentage not being what it seems, but have you ever heard the theory of Tywin and Cersei's parentage maybe not being what it seems?
Jaime and Cersei's?
Yeah.
I have not. I've heard of Tyrion's, Tyrion's possible spoiler, being a Targaryen, which I think would be kind of cool, but I've never heard any theory about Jaime and Cersei.
So there's basically the exact same theory of the timelines don't exactly line up for Tyrion to be Aerys's child, but they would line up closer for Jaime and Cersei to be his children. And it works with Aerys because it's kind of that, or with Tyrion, sorry, because it's kind of the Tywin never wanted this son. He's, monstrous, which is kind of a Targaryen feature because of all the inbreeding. So it kind of fits with Tyrion better, but George R.R. Martin doesn't really like to make things fit. So there's been speculation that it's actually Jaime and Cersei that came from Aerys, not, Tyrion. And there's also that great line that his aunt Jenna Lannister tells him, he is not Tywin's son. Tyrion was always more Tywin's son. And she meant it more like you're not the same type of person as Tywin, but like it's little nuggets like that George R.R. Martin likes to sneak in, that once you find out, you're like, oh yeah, we should have picked up on this a lot earlier.
Well, that's what makes the book so juicy, is like when you're reading along and and you don't always notice it, but then you pick up those tiny little nuggets of
then you dive into internet theorizing and all this stuff that's out there of people who have been writing this stuff since 1999 and like just making up all these things and assumptions. So yeah, there's vast majority of other stuff that we probably can't get to, but I always thought I like that symmetry better than Tyrion being Aerys, because Tyrion's a little too on the nose, excuse my pun, to be Aerys' son. But it would be interesting if Tywin's prized possessions, Jaime most of all, but also Cersei, are the ones that aren't actually his.
And wouldn't it even be more jacked up if Jaime technically killed his own father?
Right. And that's another thing that would fit in there. He killed, part of him killing Aerys was to obey his father, basically Tywin. And if that were turned around, that he actually killed his father to obey Tywin, that's something that George R.R. Martin likes to play around with.
he's great at those little plot
Yeah.
twists, and
So
I will
that's
definitely address this Jamie as a Targaryen a little later on. I don't want to break
Oh yeah, yeah.
something up
We're
right
gonna
now.
keep going, but just wanted to know your thoughts on that. I really like that's a little bit more complex than well,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Tyrion because Tyrion's one of the main characters and he's never been loved and so he's got to be special.
It's
Not
too
everybody's
easy.
special,
No, not
right?
everybody is special. I mean, we've learned that really well from the world of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Or A Song of Ice and Fire is nobody's special.
Rob Stark sure
Everybody's
wasn't special.
oh hell no. Neither was any of their direwolves and most of their family. Ned
Jon
Stark,
Snow might be special. There might be some
he's
special.
well, if you think about it, one in however much the population is. I mean, yeah, I guess that's pretty special to have a half decent guy.
The next point, they Jaime and Cersei made their first visit to King's Landing at age 6 to celebrate the 10th year of Aerys' reign. So Aerys would have already been king when they were conceived. That kind of goes along with my thoughts of him
Yeah,
potentially being because at the time, like Tywin and Joanna were kind of back and forth between King's Landing and Casterly Rock, and Joanna, not Joanna, but Aerys always had a thing for Joanna,
yeah,
which is
he
why everyone speculates
little
that
prick.
yeah, definitely. Everyone speculates that he is someone in the Lannister family father.
I now that I learned this, man, I hope Jamie is a target. That
It
would be
makes it so much
so
better, doesn't
awesome. That would be so awesome.
it?
But
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I had a couple things I was curious about. Did you still need to finish that one point?
No,
No. All
I'm good.
right. I'm curious how Jamie looked upon the Mad King when he was there as a when he was there as a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting. How he thought his reign was because there was mostly peace at the time.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and at the same time, as a kid, I mean, you're kind of insulated from a lot of stuff, and
mhm.
even though he's the son of Tywin, I'm sure he won't be dealing with too much at 6 years old. But I think it's really neat that they meet when he's at such a young age, and then what is it, 14 years in the future, boom, he ends up cutting him down.
Yeah, I don't know the exact. I mean, I probably have the exact date in my notes, but it's somewhere close to there.
I want to say he's like 30 something in the book. At this time, I don't know. I lose track. I
Yeah,
got
he's
that's
and
another
at
stuff.
like when the book starts, I think they're early 30s. I want to say because Tyrion's like
Hmm.
23 or something. So yeah, it's all messy. And then the show, they're even older, and it's
Yeah,
very
they're like
confusing.
50.
So Jaime and Cersei pretty much inseparable in childhood as they are in adulthood for the most part. They would dare each other to go into the lions' cages, which I asked on Reddit earlier this week. If just I asked on the Song of Ice and Fire Reddit if anyone had any like fun tidbits or trivia to kind of pull out, and a lot of people suggested that when they were kids, how they would dare each other to go into the lions' cages and or they would basically dare each other to get closer and closer and
Hmm.
eventually dared to go in. Jaime would never actually go in. Cersei did go in one time,
I mean,
which I thought was interesting.
I think that's very interesting, especially when you compound that with all her other, bits of her personality, which she's a complex character all on her own.
Also, one of the notes left for me on Reddit was he's left-handed now.
Yeah.
So their sexual relationship started at a very young age,
Yeah.
and they were discovered. The first they were discovered was by Joanna, their mother. So it's believed that Tywin never rightfully found out. Do you think he
Hmm.
knew though,
I'm sure. I'm sure
or like had
Tywin.
the feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he had a gut feeling about it because everybody had a gut feeling about it. I feel like it was one of those kind of, people like Tyrion. Tywin's a clever dude, just like Tyrion.
Hmm.
Tyrion figured it out. I don't think Jamie ever explicitly told him,
No, no one ever explicitly told him, and that was kind of
but
the point because then he could shut his eyes to it basically and pretend it wasn't
exactly. I
going
mean,
on.
I don't have to pay attention to it, but it's there. Um, but I thought, ugh, it still
Yeah,
gives
it's
me,
weird. I don't have
yeah,
a
it is,
sister, but it'd be strange.
it is super weird, but I don't know. It
Incest
sounds
is
like,
weird, guys. Don't
well,
do it.
yeah, don't listen. Don't listen to the show, please. But it's, I think maybe when he was 6 and he was there seeing the Targaryens and hearing about the Targaryens and their heritage, etc., I think that incestuous relationship was a big part of it. So maybe,
Yeah, that could definitely be. I mean, because
was,
Aerys and his wife were cousins, I want to say.
yeah, something like that. I
And I
mean,
want to, I think it was like first cousins. They were very close, relatively.
mhm,
So yeah, I think that probably played a big part in it. As you see these people who have been kings for 300 years, and this is the way they did it, and they even point that out in the show early on of like
yeah,
the Targaryens did it for years. We're fine. Cersei says they've been doing it for 300 years. We'll be fine.
yeah,
Our 3 demon spawn are perfect. Don't worry about them.
fuck.
Stupid
And
Joffrey.
God, I hate seeing him pass was the best in the
That's
show.
great.
It wasn't as violent as the book, or at least it felt as the book.
Hmm.
But when Olenna drops the bomb on Jamie in the show, that's so
Yeah,
awesome.
that's one of the good. There are very few good parts in the later seasons, and that's definitely one of them. When she was like, "Yeah, it was me."
Yeah, she's a great actress.
Um,
And one last thing is, I'm real curious. Did they think they were free and clear when their mom died? Like, do you think Jamie and Cersei are that cold-hearted to kind of be like, oh yeah, well, my mom's gone. My
I
dad's never gonna find out.
I think I think partly yes, because she like when she first discovered him, because they slept in the same bed when they were younger, and then she discovered them and basically physically separated them,
Hmm.
and they slept on opposite sides of the castle or whatever. So I think probably like they knew that even if their dad knew, he wasn't going to do anything about it. Like because they probably figured he knew already. Like Tywin knew, but like
Yeah,
he
that's a
he
good
would
point.
rather be ignorant than know it's like have to acknowledge it. So if he acknowledges it and separates them, then there's something wrong. But he
Yeah,
would never acknowledge it because he would never admit that there's something wrong. He's too worried about
absolutely.
his family's legacy to actually worry
Just
about
about to
what
say
his
that.
family's doing.
Just about to say that. Tywin is one of those kind of cats. You nailed that on the head.
So Tyrion is born less than a year after the King's Landing visit. So this is another moment where if Tyrion is a secret Targaryen, this is where it would have happened.
Yeah.
When they went on that visit to King's Landing, Ares would have been, and then they came back and he's born. So yeah, the twins are 7 years older than him. The reason the reason that the Jaime and Cersei holds up a little bit more too is they say there were liberties taken with Joanna on Aerys's wedding night, or maybe yeah, I think it was on Aerys's wedding night.
Hmm.
Um, so that and I think that is closer to Jaime and Cersei's birth. Like I think that's right before they're born. Is Aerys gets married and does whatever inappropriate things to Joanna on that night, and then that's where you get from that comment in the World of Ice and Fire book to Jaime and Cersei may actually be Targaryens, not Tyrion.
Man, that would be
Maybe they
so
all are.
wild. That would. I mean, that would be too much, man. I'm good with Jamie and Cersei being Lannisters, but imagine Tywin sitting back like this dude banged my wife. I'm sure that's gone through his head. Like, dang, this dude is so bogus. I'm the hand of the king, and he's doing me. This is so bogus.
Yeah, don't want any of that
Dang.
Mad King juice. No
Well,
one wants it.
and sorry, whoops. And do you think that possibly led to his betrayal later on during the sack?
Definitely. Every there's a lot of things that led up to that. I mean, there are many slights between the two, both back and forth between the two of them that I think
Hmm.
led to that. And I think he knew Robert was going to win. Rhaegar was dead. Um, most of the Kingsguard was dead. There were 3 Kingsguard left at the Tower of Joy, and that's it.
Hmm.
So and Jamie obviously. So I think like Tywin's one to put his hands in the winning side.
I mean, he has the liberty to do that, and
Right.
he's done it many a time.
And then he gets his daughter to marry the king, obviously.
He's such a sleazeball.
So then Cersei gets taken to King's Landing with Tywin at the age of 12. That's when they're actually separated. And I think that was on oh no, Joanna would have been dead already. So that was just to separate them further. But at this time, Jaime is squiring for Lord Sumner Craycole, which he did
Crickle.
from ages 11 to 15. and he won his first tourney melee at the age of 13, which is pretty young to win a melee,
That's
which are crazy.
super young. I mean, fuck, I can't even imagine. Uh, I think, you know, he's a natural warrior. They really stress that in the books. And what
Hmm.
better way to show that off than he wins a tournament at 13 and he's squiring at 11? Like, I understand, or at least I'm going to take the liberty with this that lives are shorter
Yeah,
in the world of
for the
a
most
Song
part,
of
I
Ice
would
and
say.
Fire. But even 11, man, that's
Yeah,
pretty
and
young.
then his he only squires till the age of 15 because something better happens at that point.
Yeah, no kidding.
But during that time, he had attempted betrothals to Elia Martell and Lysa Tully. Which why do you think they attempted these two mostly useless women? Like Elia was sickly, basically her whole life. Like she was constantly sick, bedridden, can't do much, and Lysa is the less attractive Tully sister and just basically useless as well.
Bad shit.
As far as usefulness of a woman goes in the world of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Women are very
Well,
useful in the world today. That is not the point I'm making. But these two women at the time in this story were not very useful.
no. But they held political significance. I think Lysa Tully
Get the
brings Riverrun.
Riverlands, yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta have those, especially if
We basically got the whole center of the map then. Like
exactly.
you
I
got the
mean,
Westerlands and the Riverlands.
you
That's a
can
good
wall
point.
off the north, and I know there was some bad blood between the Lannisters and the Starks that we still see spill over later on in the future. Um,
Yeah, just a little bit.
but he is straight up ignored Lysa during dinner and just did not look at for
Well,
what it
Blackfish
was.
is telling those stories, man.
That's
You
kind of
gotta
what I was
gotta be in on the
yeah.
Blackfish stories.
Well, I think once again that kind of just throws back to his thirst for war. Like, he's a warrior. It's what he does.
I mean, if you had one of the legendary knights telling you war stories or Lysa Tully, I mean, what are you gonna pay attention to?
Oh, war stories all day. I'm gonna get me a big old turkey leg and some mead. Get down.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's all I had for their childhood. Did you have anything else to cover in childhood before we move on to basically his knighting and becoming Kingsguard?
You pretty much covered everything I was gonna add. So I think we're good. Let's move on.
All right. Yeah, Kingsguard for Aerys Targaryen, aka the Mad King.
The
Um,
Mad King.
so Jaime was knighted by Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Legendary.
Sir Arthur fucking
Apparently can
Dane.
fight with two swords at once,
Yeah,
according to the show.
I wasn't feeling that.
Not a good strategy. Can't defend yourself.
No, no,
But so
not at
he's
all.
knighted after helping defeat the Kingswood Brotherhood, which I think the Kingswood Brotherhood may be a good topic in the future for us. They're some
Yeah,
badass dudes.
I'll check
Got the
that shit
Smiling
out.
Knight.
The
Lots of good
Smiling Knight,
stuff there.
the Crazy. Do you think? I wonder if George R. R. Martin took that from what is that? The Smiling Man, where they got the Joker inspiration from. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent. I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
mean to
know
do
that
that.
one. Sorry.
But
I'm
yeah, I
sure
mean,
when we do the Kingswood Brotherhood episode, we'll find all that out when we do our
oh
research.
yeah. But
But
to kick so much ass to have Arthur Dane, knight you, that's awesome.
I think it was like on a battlefield too. Like after
Yeah,
winning the battle against the Smiling Knight, he like just was like, all right, cool, you're in the club now, dude.
yeah.
And the Kingswood Brotherhood is basically the pre Baratheon dynasty version of the Brotherhood without banners, which
So yeah,
another good topic there too.
I
A
will.
lot of good future topics here.
I'm
So
writing them down.
he was knighted at 15 and then raised to the Kingsguard also at 15, which he was the youngest person ever to be to join the Kingsguard. Was Loras younger when he joined?
I don't think so. I think
I think Loras was like 17.
yeah. I'm pretty sure he is not that young. And they would have made sure to mention that like 500
That's
times.
true. And Jamie would
Um,
have like Jamie already has some jealousy towards Loras. I think it would be even more spelled out.
he'd probably just kill him.
Yeah, that's true too. So he basically chose to be on the Kingsguard to avoid Lysa, and also because the betrothal with Lysa Tully had moved forward at that point, and like it was really gonna have Cersei's whispering in his ear, "Hey, look, they're gonna marry you to Lysa, but if you become
Yeah.
the Kingsguard, boom, you're in King's Landing with me. Guess what? I'm open for business."
Bang. But yeah, I think Jamie was talked into it by Cersei. Um, and when she tells him, "Don't worry about it, I'll take care of father," he should have ran for the woods. Like,
Well,
get
yeah,
out of there,
because
dude.
he knew Tywin would not approve of that because
No,
he
absolutely not.
wants
It's
Jamie
his
to
hair.
inherit. Yeah, he
Yeah,
wants Jamie to inherit because if Jamie doesn't inherit, that leaves Tyrion.
Tyrion.
And
Ugh.
Tywin doesn't really like Tyrion.
Yeah, no.
Spoiler
He
alert.
hates Tyrion. Like a bad fart. He hates him.
That's strange. That's a strange way to put it.
My grandfather used to say stuff like that. You just kind of,
Shout
out of
shout
nowhere.
out, Grandpa Richardson.
Grandpa?
So, Eris named him part of the Kingsguard at the tourney at Harrenhal. A lot of stuff going on at tourney at Harrenhal. That's probably a good topic in the future too. A lot of stuff going on at Harrenhal.
I mean, it was a big deal, and when he wouldn't let him fight, and Jamie showed up as a mysterious knight. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Jamie showed up as a mysterious knight.
I don't think it's ever been confirmed,
It's not
but
Jamie.
it's
It's like 98% not Jamie.
oh
We
man,
can
I
we
always
can
wanted to
have
believe
that.
it was Jamie.
No, we can have that discussion off air because that's spoilery. The Knight of the Laughing Tree is not Jamie.
Okay,
Sorry. But
breaking me, bro.
yeah, he gets sent back to King's Landing immediately and not allowed to participate. A lot of people thought, a lot of people in the world thought that Aerys agreed to elevate Jamie to Kingsguard kind of as revenge towards Tywin,
Hmm.
both for basically getting to marry Joanna, who Aerys grew up with Joanna, so like that's why he had this lust or love for her. So that like they thought because Tywin married Joanna, Aerys never trusted him again. Also, there were like people around town saying how Tywin actually ruled the realm, not Aerys, and Aerys didn't really like that. So taking
No,
away Tywin's heir was his way to get back at him.
I mean that's the ultimate gut punch to Tywin, and Ares. I mean, he's the Mad King. If he has that
It's
childhood
crazy, people.
romantic love for he's crazy. And you got this insubordinate shit stain named Tywin Lannister who's trying to get at your girl. Of course he's gonna get back at her if he ends up losing her, and he did a damn fine job of it.
Yeah, it worked. Tywin basically immediately resigns and takes off back to Castle Rock, and he brings someone with him, dashing the hopes of these young lovers. Brings Cersei back to Castle Rock with him,
Ugh.
so they cannot actually be together.
And I wonder if he did that on purpose or it was just I'm gonna take everything I possibly can that's not tied down to titles, as in, Jamie part of the Kingsguard and run. Or he just, knew and he wasn't gonna leave her behind.
I think it's probably a little of both.
Well, wasn't she rumored to isn't she supposed to marry Rhaegar? Like wasn't that
She
I thought that
was,
was
yeah, she was, and that was another thing that he took away when he brought her back to Castle Rock. He basically broke that betrothal as well.
bogus.
So yeah, that there was a lot of bad blood going between Aerys and Tywin,
Mm-hmm.
and that all culminates in one tragic day during Robert's Rebellion that we will call the Kingslaying.
The Kingslayer.
So as Jamie is guarding the king throughout his tenure as Kingsguard, he becomes disillusioned with Aerys and realizes, this is kind of a shitty dude.
Super shitty, dude.
He's got kind of a tendency to burn men alive. Then he burns people and wants to go rape his wife. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad
who's his
things there.
cousin and
Yeah,
he's
Jamie's like, yeah, I don't really
pale.
like this dude.
Yeah, this guy
The cousin
pisses me
loving was
off.
probably like Jamie was probably on his side there. He's like, yeah, you know what, that's cool. But
So
the
I
way in
don't.
which it took place.
Yeah.
So another thing, a lot of people on Reddit want to make sure we mention this, was that Jamie was one of the very few people that kind of recognized what Aerys was doing to his wife, which I can't remember her name. I want to say it's Rhaella. Too many Targaryen
Uh,
names sound alike.
so yeah,
Um,
what a
but
Roz.
but basically, he was after one of these instances where he burned people alive. He went and basically raped his wife, Jamie, and John Derry are standing guard outside. And Jamie says to John Derry, "Hey, we're supposed to protect her too because he can hear like screams of
Yeah,
pain coming from the
yeah,
room, basically." He says, we're supposed to protect her too, and
not from.
yeah, not from him, is what John Derry says. And like Jamie's like the only person in the world that would have said that. One of the
Yeah.
only people in the world.
Well, I think he's still kind of a knight. He's still young, and this is all fresh, and this is a damsel in distress, and that rhymed. And he's trying to, save the lady, but not from him. That is such a crushing line from the captain of the Kingsguard.
Yeah, and he just senses that something's wrong. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
at this point in his life, he's still trying to decipher what's right and wrong. Besides boning his sister, he still does care about what's right and wrong. The more time he spends with Cersei, the more he loses that. But at this time, he hadn't actually spent that much time with Cersei, so he has that sense still.
yeah. He's green.
Right. And then, so I think in my mind, what really pushed him over the edge was the torture and executions of Rickard and Brandon Stark.
Yep.
Basically, Lyanna Stark is kidnapped, we'll say, for the sake of this. She's
Air
kidnapped,
quotes.
yeah, very heavy air quotes. So Joanna is kidnapped. Rickard and Brandon come down to plead or fight with Rhaegar and Aerys to basically give Joanna back. And Aerys has them arrested for being in rebellion, and they choose a trial by combat, and Aerys chooses fire as his champion, which is pretty fucked up
That is
because
such a cheat,
fire's
man.
not a person.
Yeah.
Um,
Straight up
I'm
cheat.
pretty sure the rules say it's got to be a person.
He's the king.
Yeah,
He makes the rules.
I guess so. So Rickard is hanged from the roof of the Red Keep, burning, while Brandon is placed in a strangling device of his own, with a sword just out of reach. So if he could reach the sword, he'd be able to cut himself free and cut
Mhm.
his father free. Basically, Brandon strangles himself trying to get to the sword while Rickard burns alive.
I think this is one of those moments where Jamie's standing there watching this, and he's trying to go away inside, like he likes
Yes.
to say, and
Yep.
he's trying his hardest, but he still sees this thing. He still sees this this man burning these two honorable men who, the son's trying to save the father. That
Right, and
had
they're
to be
both down there
so.
fighting for their daughter and sister,
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're fighting for their family.
who at this time everyone thinks she was kidnapped. Like nobody in the
Exactly.
world thinks anything other than she was kidnapped, other than Rhaegar.
So I mean, this open rebellion is already, it's precarious as is, and they're just trying to help their family, and he stands there and watches it, and
Mhm.
not being able to do anything had to have been incredibly tough.
Right. And this is where, like you said, he teaches himself to go away inside while witnessing atrocities, and tries to teach that to other people, as he grows and as he
Yeah,
meets new
several
people.
times.
So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that until like I was researching for this. I guess I missed that part while reading the books. But yeah, the that facet of him is super interesting, because that's like, you don't have psychologists in whatever time period this is to like teach you some of those coping mechanisms.
Hmm.
So the fact that he does that and then doesn't ever lash out with that, like it's very interesting that he's able to control himself in that way, because
He's
usually if you pack that shit inside, it's gonna explode.
Oh yeah,
And
and
I
then
wouldn't even say what happened to Ares eventually was an explosion of this anger.
no, no, not at all. He he's the prototypical, keep that shit bottled up inside, son, kind of guy. Um, he's very stoic, and it bothers him, but I agree with you. They didn't have, mental health professionals back then. They try to treat you with
Those
herbs and
those
all
maesters give
kinds
you
of
milk of
crap.
the poppy and let you sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And
Why
then
do you
you
think
just
Robert
wake up
Aaron's so
feeling
messed
worse.
up?
When they first
Give him way
had
too much
the
nightshade.
oh man, when the first season came out and they showed Robert Aaron's body, um, and his eyes, like the stones painted on his eyes, I always thought that was his real
Oh,
eyes when I
John
first
Aaron.
saw it. John Aaron, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I
I
was
said
talking
Robert.
about the son, the very sickly son.
Yeah, he's
Um,
gross, dude.
yeah. John Aaron. Yeah, that I was very weirded out by that too because like I hadn't read the books when I started watching the show. So like
Mm,
I had no idea what I was getting into. I just heard the show was good. I didn't even know what it was about. I was like, I'll check it out. I'm bored. Don't have kids yet. Very easy to jump into a new show.
yep.
Um, so yeah, I was like, what's going on with his eyes? That's very strange.
It just took me off guard.
And I don't think I like fully understood it until Joffrey's death. And like then you really see Joffrey like on the pedestal or
hmm
whatever with them on. Like you get a better view of what's going on because like in that first scene, John Aaron's just kind of off to the side while Jaime and Cersei are talking,
It's
and like
dark.
you barely see him. So
Yeah.
yeah. So then Robert's rebellion after that happens is in full swing. Jaime's not allowed to go out and fight. He begs with Rhaegar to let him go out to fight wherever there are battles. Aerys
hmm
doesn't let that happen. He wants to keep Jaime close in King's Landing as sort of a hostage against Tywin because he knows if he has Jaime, Tywin won't turn against him. Newsflash, that doesn't work. Uh, but basically, he's trying to do that so Tywin doesn't join Robert's side because Robert's side is clearly winning. Um, so he keeps him there, and then Tywin comes to town eventually, betrays them, and as Tywin is on the outside of town betraying Aerys and the Targaryens, Jaime is on the inside. Uh,
Mm.
two big murders happen here. He murders the new Hand of the King, Brossart, who is one of the pyromancers.
Pyromancers, yeah.
Yeah, or the head pyromancer,
hmm
who helped Ares come up with the plan, the wildfire plot, as it's called.
Like crazy son of a
So he
bitch.
kills him first, the wildfire plot, and we'll go a little bit deeper into that in a second. Wildfire plot can't be pulled off. And then Ares claims at some point, I think he said this to Rossart, if the traitors want my city, but I'll give them naught but ashes. Let Robert be king over charred bones and cooked meat.
That's
So that's the plan. Basically,
such a great line.
he works with the pyromancers, build up all these caches of wildfire, to basically just blow the city up. And they were about to go forward if Jaime did not catch them first.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie made a decision. Like he just watched Ares burn his recent hand alive before Rosser came along.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking all this crazy ass shit. He's telling Jamie to kill his father.
Burn them all, burn them all. Yep,
Yeah,
Aerys asked Jaime to bring him Tywin's head. And
he's just going bananas. So he made a decision. He was humane about it at least, and boom, went ahead and let him go.
yeah, yeah, good job, Jaime. What I wanted to talk a little bit more about the let Robert be king over charred bones and cooked meat, which
Mm,
didn't happen. I actually think this is Daenerys' fate. So all of the talk, I don't think it'll happen in the show because I don't think the show is this smart. But all of the talk is from George R. R. Martin is how the ending is going to be bittersweet. And if Daenerys somehow makes it to the end, which that's a little up for debate too, and I could be talked into her dying before the end.
yeah.
But I think if she makes it to the end, because of all the terrible things she's done and all the terrible things she's going to do with her dragons, I think her fate will be that she is the queen, the rightful queen, but she will be the queen over charred bones and cooked meat.
That
And that will be her doing, and it will be Cersei's doing because Cersei likes to play with this wildfire as well, as we saw in the show.
Yeah, I think Cersei isn't gonna last till the end either. And if Daenerys does, I think that's almost has to be her fate.
Because I feel like that line is in there for a reason, and that would give you the bittersweet of everybody who wants Daenerys to succeed. I am not one of those people. I do not like her. I really don't like her in the show because Emilia Clarke is just terrible
She's
in
a horrible.
everything she's done.
She's very pretty. Don't get me wrong, but the
Yes.
Terminator movie, good
God.
God, that was so
She's
bad.
even in Solo, which I really like Solo. If
Yeah, that was a good
she
movie.
was any other actress playing that part, would have been way better. Tandy Newton, who dies halfway through Solo. Spoilers for Solo. If she was playing that Emilia Clarke role, 100 times better movie. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
I totally
just
agree.
so wooden. And then in Game of Thrones, at least, she always has this what I affectionately call "I just smelled poop" face. Like, just watch her face the next time you're watching the show. Like,
Dude,
she,
that's kind of. Uh, I'm gonna watch this from
yeah,
now on and
check
sit
that
there and
out.
be like, ooh,
It's definitely there.
poop face.
So that's I think that's going to be Danny because it's Ares claiming, let Robert be king over charred bones and cooked meat. So her father claiming that turns around, it's actually her, and the Targaryen dynasty ends up with that being their legacy.
That would be, honestly, that would be a fitting end. I would accept that.
Thank you. I mean, George, if you need help, I'm here. Call me.
We're here, bro.
Yeah.
We will talk you through your writer's block. We got you.
I can't write all the fluffy stuff in between like you can, but like I can get some plot points in there.
We got this.
So then he kills Rossart. He moves, getting back on track here. He kills Rossart, moves into the Red Keep. Ares sees blood on his sword, asks, "Is that Tywin's blood?" Jaime shakes his head basically, or says it's Rossart's, one or the other. Ares tries to run up to the Iron Throne. Jaime grabs him and drags him off the Iron Throne. And fun fact here, kills him with a single slash across the throat. Does not stab him in the back, as contrary to popular belief from the show. And this was actually something I learned this time. I guess I, again, never paid that close of attention while reading or listening because I listen to the audiobooks. In the show, it's he stabbed him in the back. He stabbed him in the back, makes him a much worse person.
Exactly.
But he actually, in the book, it's stated it's a single slash across the throat, preventing Ares from giving the command to any other pyromancer to burn the city. So that's why he goes for the throat.
That really caught my attention when I was reading the book the first time through, because when you read it, immediately how crazy Ares is. Like you pick up on that pretty easy.
Yeah, they don't hide
talking
that
about it. No, so I don't know. I guess I'm weird in the manner that I always find it weird that Jaime, as this great warrior and this a knight, defender of the peace, whatever you want to call it, would kill him mercifully. Like I'd say 80% of people in that world would kill him, by stabbing him in the back, burning him alive, throwing him off the highest tower, like making this dude feel some pain before he goes.
Well, I think part of it was he didn't want to waste any time either. He knew the wildfire caches were there, and all Ares had to do was say go. So like it's got to be a quick job.
I would have thrown him out the window, man. He's on his way down, like light that shit.
Yeah, it's bad news. As far as him killing Ares, I think it's summed up best in a quote Jaime says to Catelyn in A Clash of Kings as she's releasing him. He says, "I will say, I think it passing odd that I am loved by one for a kindness I never did. We'll get to that later. And reviled by so many for maybe my finest act." Which, I mean, to me, that sums up Jaime immensely. And it gives him this depth of character, like that his finest act was definitely killing Ares.
Absolutely. I mean, he saved 1 million people. And that quote is powerful, and it's just, I think that's a testament to his stoicism, where it's just an offhanded comment to Catelyn Stark, but it's the truth. Like that is.
Yeah, and that one's always after the first time I heard that one's always stuck with me, and just like and that's one of the reasons why I love Jaime. Jaime's probably my second favorite character in the story, in the story of the books. In the show, he's just butchered so much that I don't like him very much. But next to Arya, he's my favorite character.
He's my top 5.
Ooh, top 2 for me, so suck it.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to move on to the King's Guard with Robert.
Let's do it.
So Robert becomes king after Ned Stark dethrones Jaime. Basically, Jaime sits on the throne until somebody comes and takes it from him, basically. Yeah. Which Jaime didn't want to be king. He knew somebody better than him needed to come claim it. Otherwise, he wasn't going to get up. So that's why he waited for Ned.
He doesn't want to be king. That's just not his flavor. He wants to...
No one wants to be king. You want to be the guy next to the king. That's where Tyrion had it right.
Exactly. I mean, you've seen what the king goes through, and everyone's trying to kill him, and it's just a bunch of stress all the time. It's not what it's cracked up to be.
No.
Um,
So Jamie gets pardoned by Robert. He gets to continue on the King's Guard. This was actually on John Aaron's advice. Ned urged Robert to send Jamie to the Night's Watch, which he probably
yep,
should have done. Would have
absolutely.
been a great idea, but that saved everyone some huge headaches. But we wouldn't get to enjoy this good story.
Mm.
And then Jamie and Cersei's relationship gets to continue under Robert because Robert marries Cersei, and now they get to bang on the reg.
On the reg.
They have 3 children together: Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen. Not much is known about Marcella. She's off in Dorne. Good for her. And Joffrey's the biggest shit in the world. And Tommen, he just wants to play with cats.
There's nothing wrong with that. Cats are fucking awesome, dude.
And then another thing contrary to the show, Cersei only let herself get pregnant by Robert once, which that happens in the show. But in the books, Jamie
take care of it.
found someone to cleanse her, where in the show it's a miscarriage. Which, yeah, I think as far as Cersei goes, having she and Jamie find someone to take care of it on their own makes more sense for who their characters are.
Oh,
Basically,
absolutely.
it's us against the world. Having her have a miscarriage gives her this level of you have sympathy for her, where she doesn't really garner any because she's a really shitty person, basically from beginning to end.
And she has a great mask, but yeah, I think you're right. And just finding someone to take care of it, that's so odd that like they won't even have there's no love at all between Robert Baratheon and Cersei already. And I don't think Jamie thinks anything of Robert Baratheon, and I don't think Robert thinks anything of Jamie. Robert's the big badass who killed.
Yeah, Robert definitely thinks he could kick his ass.
Oh yeah, I mean
He beat
probably
Rhaegar.
could. He beat Rhaegar on the Trident with a giant hammer. That's pretty sweet. And he probably doesn't think, I don't know. It's just odd to me that she wouldn't even pop out one of Robert's kids, because you think they'd figure it out after a while.
Yeah. Robert's not the smartest, sharpest crayon in the box, as they say.
No.
The last thing I want to talk about before we actually get into Jamie's plot, as we know today through the books, is his relationship with Tyrion. We haven't really talked about it much, but in childhood they're very friendly together. He always protected him from Cersei and from others of making fun of him, or Cersei trying to kill him. Those things, normal sisterly things. He never really blamed Tyrion for what happened to Joanna like Tywin and Cersei did.
No,
which
he didn't.
Which is nice. Way to go.
Family's a big deal. And Tyrion's family, no matter how much anyone else doesn't like that.
Right. Yeah. And then the big thing between Jamie and between Jamie and Tyrion, can bury my lead there a little bit, is this whole thing with Tysha. Basically, Jamie and Tyrion are out one night. They come across this woman being harassed by some not very nice
Bandits.
men. Bandits, thank you. Sometimes I have trouble with words. They're rough. So Jamie scares off the bandits. Tyrion falls in love with this girl, marries her in secret. Tywin finds out about the marriage and basically forces Jamie to tell Tyrion that she was a whore. Jamie set the whole thing up so Tyrion would lose his virginity, and then has all of the Lannister guardsmen rape her and then let Tyrion do it last, of course, because she gets to pay extra for a Lannister, obviously. So that's the story they come with, and Tysha runs off to maybe Bravos. We don't know. Wherever whores go. Tyrion's still trying to figure it out. I like how it's just like... With that, I'm going to take a quick detour here. With that, when Tywin says that to Tyrion, Tyrion's like, oh, he's being serious. I just got to find where whores go and she'll be there. Like, Tywin's just being a dick. Like, he's just like, she goes wherever whores go. I don't know. How am I supposed to know that?
Motherfucker.
and Tyrion's like, oh, I need to find this plate. Like, there's one place, obviously, where whores go. And for the rest of the next 2 books, he's looking for where do whores go. He's asking everybody he can get his hands on. Very funny.
I mean, those are the only people he can get his hands on, so he's
That's true too.
He's looking for them far and wide.
So then, and this comes up later in the books, but we'll cover it here. When Jaime is helping Tyrion escape from the Black Cells, he tells Tyrion she wasn't really a whore. She did really love him for him.
Hmm.
And Tyrion's got some harsh words for Jaime at that point. And that kind of breaks their
Yeah.
relationship, which they always had a really good actual brotherly relationship, which the Lannisters don't know much about having good familial relationships. So it was kind of cool that Tyrion and Jaime had that up until
Absolutely.
that
I
point.
mean, their relationship was they were brothers. They were tight, and with the Lannisters, it's not that outward hug bro moment like you have with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I never had one of those.
duty. Me and my little brother, I got one. You feel that
No,
need
I have a
to
brother. I
look out
never
for
had one
him.
of those hugs.
Oh, you never had a bro hug?
Maybe a couple.
They're terrible. Overrated.
But so that's the basically telling Tyrion she was a whore. In Tyrion's mind, was the kindness that Jaime never did. That he's loved by Tyrion for the kindness he never did. Is telling him she was a whore and like saving him from the mess that is love. I guess is how Tyrion felt about it.
Yeah, the mess that is love and the yeah. I didn't really get that at first. I had to do some serious research on that one.
Of how that's
Um,
a kind of how telling her Tyrion she's a whore is
it's
kind.
yeah, exactly. It's like, man, dude, you really destroyed your little brother at the time, but it paid off in the future and it really shaped Tyrion's life. So
Right, and
I
Tyrion really likes the person he has become. He likes drinking and paying for
mhm.
whores. Like so, Tyrion's living his best life right now, basically because Jaime set him on that path with this quote unquote kindness.
Yeah, he's having a ball. He's having a ball.
All right, we are going to stop part one right here. We're going to break this into two parts. The second part will be releasing just the day after this, so it'll be coming soon. Don't worry if you're enjoying this conversation. There will be another one you can listen to tomorrow. And if you're not listening to this on the release day, obviously there will be another one you can listen to already there. But we've got a lot more to go into. We're going to go into the book arc and where we think Jaime's future is going and what we do and don't like about the show version of Jaime. So we will be back on that. In the meantime, check us out on Twitter at APA something. You can always send us feedback through email, a podcast about something at gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Stay sexy.
Stay classy.